nice, the Surface Duo is finally available on Verizon. Let's see what the comments are. I bet they're really positive. It is Friday, November 6th. This is my news radar where I talk about the latest tech, gaming, and sometimes nerd culture news. So let's jump straight into things and talk about a little bit of maybe news that isn't news about the PlayStation 5. So just the other day, I did a video talking about how the actual usable storage space on the PlayStation 5 is not the 825 gigabytes that the SSD soldered to the board actually is, due to the fact that you have an operating system and things like that. You never get the full hard drive to just download games to. What you actually get is like 600 and something gigabytes. So let me correct something very quickly that I failed to mention in the video from the other day. So the Xbox Series X has a 1 terabyte SSD, but only about 802 gigabytes of that will be usable for games. The Series S has a 512 gigabyte SSD, but only 364 of that will be usable for games there. That is, look, if the PS5's 600 and something gigabytes of free space is not enough, which I'm going to continue arguing that it's not enough, 364 is like not even a funny joke. It's a joke, and it's not even a funny joke. It's not even near enough. So both of these systems do have expandable storage. The Xbox is selling a 1 terabyte. It's like a little, looks like an old PlayStation 1 memory card, and you're going to plug this guy into the back of your consoles. Boom, you've got upgraded storage. Now you're going to spend a couple $100 to get this proprietary SSD. So something I talked about when the news kind of became confirmed that the PS5 would only be in the 600 and something range of actual usable space. I think it was 667. The need for that M.2 expansion slot became much more real. And of course, it pretty much is on par with what Xbox is doing. You're going to buy an M.2 drive that's compatible with the new PCIe 4, and you're going to be able to plug this M.2 drive in and expand your storage. Pop off the side of the PlayStation 5. There's a little slot there. Plug it in, put the screw back in, plate back on, rock and roll. Well, not so fast. There was something that I guess slipped by a lot of people. It slipped by me as well. I looked at quotes from Mark Cerny in the initial, the beginning of the PlayStation 5's unveiling, and he talked about how eventually PlayStation 5 would be compatible with M.2 drives, and the reasoning he gave was because the M.2 drives that were on the market were not fast enough to be compatible with the PlayStation 5. They needed to be upgraded to PCIe Gen 4, and they needed to hit that 5 and some change gigabytes per second transfer speed. And once those existed, they would be compatible with the PlayStation 5. Well, not so fast. Even though Western Digital and Seagate, I believe now, have developed M.2 drives that have the proper specifications, they will not actually work with the PlayStation 5 at launch. I have an article here from WCCF Tech, and they are reporting, much like GameSpot, not GameStop, that's a store, much like GameSpot and other websites, that feature of being able to plug in the M.2 drive is not going to be turned on at launch. Sony told The Verge that will be reserved for a future update. So at launch, you can expand this thing's storage. Now, the one silver lining here is that apparently you can plug in a USB-C external bit of storage, but that will only work with PlayStation 4 games, not PlayStation 5 games. So for the foreseeable future, hopefully it's only a brief future, but for that foreseeable future, you're going to be stuck with the internal available storage on the PlayStation 5. So maybe slow down, don't buy one of these drives until Sony has certified it, and then you should be good to go. So let's stick with the PlayStation 5 here for a little bit longer. I've got a post here, that's actually a tweet with just a screenshot from the Italian version of IGN. And what they are reporting here is actually really strange to me. So apparently Sony is only going to be supporting 1080p and full 4K on the PlayStation 4. 1440p evidently will not be a supported resolution. You have the screenshot here. PS5 won't support 1440p resolution. It's official. Now, that's really weird for a couple of reasons. I mean, 1440p is kind of your mid-stop between, full HD and 4K UHD, whatever it is you want to call it. Maybe it's not a huge issue, but there are plenty of people out there with 1440p monitors that game through computer monitors. And if you are in that demographic, you're going to have to play at 1080p. So you're going to buy a $500 console to play it in last gen. The PlayStation 4 Pro, was able to do this, but the PS5 won't. Maybe this is something they can fix with a software update. Not a huge deal to a lot of people, but it's something to be aware of if it's something that means a lot or matters a lot to you. So let's close this episode of News Radar with something that I think is really, really cool. One of my favorite things in the world are weird smartphones that push the envelope. It's one of the reasons why I'm not an Apple person. I feel like Apple waits till the tech is affordable to mass produce in their numbers, which is financially an intelligent thing to do, and just from logistics an intelligent thing to do, but they don't really push things forward in a crazy way. When was the last time Apple released something that you were just like, oh my god, I've never even considered this before? Well, on Android you get weird stuff happening all the time, and it's glorious. You've got folding phones, you've got two-screen phones, you've got phones with rotating screens, you've got all sorts of crazy things. You've got phones with periscopes inside them, so you have 4 or 5x optical zoom by virtue of the light entering the camera, hitting a diagonal mirror, which then bends the light down and through a series of lenses to increase zoom. This is something that we've seen in Samsung phones and Huawei phones. I love this stuff. I love great cameras on phones, which is let's not even talk about that guy. Xiaomi is doing something that I think is absolutely, utterly fascinating and incredible. So let's jump over here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So what you're seeing here is the back of some sort of prototype phone that has a proper telescoping zoom lens on a freaking phone. Now, if you look at this thing, obviously it's got, some polishing to be done. It doesn't look like it's quite ready for prime time. But man, look, even if this thing isn't a thing you can buy in a year, I love that someone is trying to do something like this. And it actually isn't even that thick of a phone. It's hard to tell from that angle, but you can kind of get a look there. It looks pretty normal in terms of thickness. Now, one thing you're going to notice is obviously that camera is huge. A bigger lens, a bigger sensor lets in a lot more light. That's going to improve clarity. Now, unfortunately, we don't know a lot about what they're doing here. We don't know the aperture. We don't know exactly how far it can zoom in. But I, for one, am actually really intrigued by this design. Look, we've got cameras that can pop up out of the top of phones, right? So why not cameras that can pop out of the back of phones? This right here, if they can get something like this to work, I mean, you're talking about something that could really increase the size of the sensor. Personally, I'm not like a huge aesthetics person. Like, I think that something that looks like this, to me, it's really not that far from looking passable as far as I'm concerned. Because like I said, I'm more of a utilitarian with a lot of things. I like phones that let me get more things done. And if a phone like that with a great big giant sensor doesn't have to have, the face of a horrible spider with many eyes, or the stove top in the corner because there's 3 different lenses on it, this thing could be your standard and your telephoto all in one. And with a sensor that big, you can get a lot done. Cool design, may never see the light of day, but it's pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So that is all I have for today's News Radar. Be sure to check back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next episode. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. If you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Scary If Literal member. You'll get access to a whole bunch of emoticons to use with live streams and a shout out on an upcoming video. Thanks as always for your continued support.